So I read a lot of articles recently and watched a lot of YouTube videos about artificial intelligence and can it replace medical doctors? And virtually all of them agreed that it can. And some believe that it will relatively soon, even in a 2-year period perhaps. And it's just extraordinary that this seems to be the consensus, and I don't agree. And I want to talk a little bit about that. Now, there is a lot that AI can do for medicine, even right now. And I'll give some examples. So one would be the use of software to help to generate the medical notes. For example, my organization uses this software called a bridge, where it can actually take a recording of the medical encounter and generate a note, and then it can save the physician time, and so they can be face-to-face with the patient. And a lot of people are saying this is great because it saves time and you can be more engaged and attentive. And I don't personally use the software, but that's just because I don't really mind writing notes. I type relatively quickly, and I kind of like to write a note in a certain way so that I can refer back to it and find what I'm looking for. But that's certainly incredible. People never would have imagined that software could do that 10 years ago. Another one is in assistance with radiologic diagnosis. For instance, for mammograms, a computer can actually look at the images and identify abnormalities, little nodules that could be cancer, and then they're reviewed by the diagnostic radiologist. So it's not exactly totally done by AI, but with assistance. I've heard that it's kind of hypersensitive and sometimes will pick up benign findings. But hey, real human radiologists do the same thing. And so it's never perfect. Maybe it could get better and better. And certainly it will help radiologists not miss important findings. Another is doing certain types of algorithmic tasks. For instance, vaccination schedules. It's very difficult for a human doctor to look at a massive schedule of vaccines and see what's missing, but it's easy for a computer to do. And also things like drug-drug interactions, scheduling of colonoscopies, even monitoring of lab values with chemotherapy, making sure people do their labs, and if there's something outside the normal range that requires an intervention, to alert someone to perhaps cancel the therapy, that type of thing. And there are a lot of other things. I've heard of the use of ChatGPT to generate letters to insurance companies to deal with denials and prior authorizations, and using AI to make medical imaging for teaching images and videos, that sort of thing. So AI is used a lot already, and of course it's going to get better and better. By the way, I'm walking around the streets of Vancouver. I'm on vacation with my family. Beautiful city. Now, it's kind of silly to talk about can AI replace human doctors without giving a time period. And I do give people credit for actually making these bold claims so they could potentially be refuted. I remember Peter Schiff claims to have predicted the housing crash in 2009, but the problem is he predicted it in 2005, and the housing market kept going up after that, and then after it crashed, kept going up again. So it didn't really help you unless you knew when the housing market would crash. And it's kind of silly to talk about these things without a time period, because who knows how good technology could get with a long enough time horizon. For instance, imagine technology is so good that this entire video is AI generated. Or even better than that, that I'm actually a complicated biosynthetic android actually walking around the streets of Vancouver and filming this video and editing it. Or imagine that technology is so good that even my wife doesn't even know that I'm not a real human, and we've been together 15 years, and even my kids, and why not, even my parents don't even know that I'm not a real human. I was just switched at birth, and in some bizarre version of the Truman Show, I'm the first biosynthetic android that has managed to fool everyone into thinking I'm a human my entire life. And I can do everything that a human can do. Well, obviously, if technology is that good, then AI can replace doctors, because AI can replace every human task if it's that good and that convincing. But the whole point of this discussion is, when AI is significantly less good than that, could it still replace doctors? So I want to tell a story. And not too long ago, I was on call in the hospital, and I was paged about a young man, approximately 30, who had a stroke. He had sudden onset vertigo and imbalance. And this is someone who had absolutely no vascular risk factors, not overweight, didn't have hypertension, diabetes, high cholesterol, nothing. But we see young people have strokes all the time. They have hypercoagulable genetic disorders or trauma causing vertebral dissection. So we never assume someone isn't having a stroke just because they're young and healthy. And typically strokes do cause symptoms that are very sudden onset, and vertigo and imbalance is a common, well-recognized symptom of stroke. So anyways, I went to see the patient, and already as I'm walking over there, in my mind, I'm thinking what questions to ask. And the first thing is I try to clarify the time of onset, because this is very critical, because a lot of other things that cause vertigo tend to be a little bit more intermittent, tend to maybe come on a little bit more subacutely. So I really wanted to see if this was sudden onset. And so I take that history very, very carefully, and I know how to sort of pin this down because I've done this for years, and it became very apparent to me that this was not a sudden onset event. And so, I clarify with the patient, so you were at this little gathering and you were feeling a little off then. You weren't 100% normal then, that kind of thing. And it's very difficult for AI to sort of pick up on things like facial expressions. How confident was the person when they answered the question? What other information did they give that was relevant? And then, of course, I ask all the usual things about other associated symptoms. But one of the things I asked was, were you sick recently? Did you have an illness? Did you have a cold? And he said, yes, as a matter of fact, a few weeks prior to this, I did have, and he described symptoms of a mild upper respiratory tract infection. Now, you can't really have a computer just asking the patient about every possible question. Can you imagine how annoying that would be if you're the patient? Did you see a hairdresser recently? Did you go to a roller coaster recently? Do you do contact sports? Did you strain your neck? That kind of thing. I'm referring to questions related to vertebral dissection leading to a stroke. Did you see a chiropractor recently? It's very unnatural. It's very elongated. It's kind of necessary to actually make hypotheses in your mind and sort of generate questions. And it became very clear to me that this gentleman did not have a sudden onset event. It was gradual in onset. It came on over approximately 12 or 24 hours. He had an antecedent viral infection. Then on to the exam. And so I was told that the exam is normal. He's just imbalanced. He's just dizzy. But in reality, you look closely at his eyes, and they're actually moving. He has what's called nystagmus, or bouncing eye movements. And if he looks to one side, that nystagmus is exacerbated. If he looks to the other side, it's still in the same direction, but it's a little bit attenuated. And then you do another maneuver. I instruct him, take a look at my nose. I'm just going to hold your head briefly and tilt your head. And when I do it to one side, it's totally normal. There's something called the vestibular ocular reflex. And basically what's happening is if I move my head and I'm staring at the phone, maybe you could see it right now, there's actually a reflex where the vestibular organs, the semicircular canals in my middle ears, are signaling to my brain, and there's more signal from one ear, which is the side that your head is turning towards, and your eyes immediately move in the opposite direction. This is the vestibular ocular reflex. It's very important. We kind of take it for granted, but otherwise when I'm moving around, I would be completely disoriented, and this allows us to stay focused even though we're moving. And anyway, to one side, he had an impaired vestibular ocular reflex. And I won't get into the technicalities, but this combination of symptoms and exam findings is highly typical of the disorder labyrinthitis, which is known to sometimes occur after viral infections. And that's what this person had, and instead of doing a bunch of other diagnostic tests, which he already had, including an MRI and CT angiogram head and neck prior to me even seeing him, he was just given a course of steroids, sent home, and instructed that his symptoms would improve over time. Unfortunately, it can take weeks in some cases, but it should be improving. It typically doesn't recur. Recovery is usually 100%, and it doesn't increase your risk of any future event. Now, it would be very difficult for AI to do all of that. I mean, how exactly is AI going to do the examination? How is AI exactly going to take the history? Now, I do think that AI can do diagnosis better than we think it can. I remember, and this story is now over 10 years old, I heard this story about a woman who had a child with an undiagnosed medical condition. Now, this is something doctors aren't necessarily good at, diagnosing rare diseases. I'm pretty good at diagnosing things that I see all the time. Like the labyrinthitis story, I've seen this many, many times. This is not, difficult. Any, reasonable, qualified neurologist can do this, But there are certain diseases that are extraordinarily rare. And I remember, for instance, I was at a medical conference and someone described a case that looked like it could be something like multiple sclerosis, but actually it was a rare genetic disease called CTLA4 deficiency that can cause inflammation of the nervous system. And I remember thinking to myself, man, if I had a patient with this condition, I could very, very easily misdiagnose them with multiple sclerosis. And that's just the reality. Doctors aren't great at diagnosing rare conditions. And someone, and this is back then, this is kind of not AI, but more like expert systems, had developed a technology where you enter in different data points, like for instance, short stature, congenital cataracts, hypothyroidism, a bunch of different features, and it comes up with a list of potential diagnoses. And this mother with no medical background had this child who had had many tests, was undiagnosed, saw a lot of different doctors, and she put as much data as she could into this expert system, and the top diagnosis ended up being the actual correct diagnosis. So what had fooled and evaded many, many doctors was picked up by this computer, probably not because it's impossible to diagnose, because obviously it was, but because it's so rare, that maybe none of the doctors had even seen or heard of the disease. And there are tons of extraordinarily rare diseases I've never heard of. That's just the reality of medicine. So computers can do diagnosis. It just depends on the specific condition. But if you just think about like the impediments to a AI making the diagnosis that I described, it's very, very difficult. Now, I think AI will be used by doctors more and more over the years, and it will be a slow creep, and there may be even a few major innovations. Now, if you think about the advancements in medicine that have occurred in my career, almost all of them have absolutely nothing to do with AI. The abridged software, composing medical notes, certainly that's an advance, but it's really like a smaller thing. I mean, it's probably a lot smaller than the use of, for instance, the computer medical record instead of handwritten notes. I'm probably one of the, youngest doctors to really remember the time of using handwritten notes. It was truly horrible. A bridge is comparatively a small thing compared to that. Think about new medications, nusinersen for spinal muscular atrophy. It really could be life-changing for people, and it has absolutely nothing to do with AI. Most of these advancements so far are relatively small. Now, the things that I could anticipate in the future, one would be better computer-assisted diagnosis in radiology. For instance, imagine if it's not just mammograms, but every study. I order an MRI of the brain. Sometimes you have to wait a little bit in the outpatient setting to get a radiology read. What if it could give you a wet read right away? In other words, a preliminary read. And it may not be perfectly accurate, but if it could pick up the major things most of the time not have too many overcalls, in other words, hypersensitivity, it could be extraordinarily useful. And maybe it could even be sophisticated enough to signal if there's some kind of urgent finding that needs to be reviewed by a human radiologist. That film could be then prioritized. And I could imagine this getting better and better, and could be extraordinarily practical and useful, and potentially even overtake human radiologists in certain aspects of the field. People have even commented that pathology could be done by AI to some extent. You have a technician prepare the slides, the surgeon biopsies the tumor, and then the slides are prepared by a technician. And then there's a lot of data to go through because you have a microscope and it can zoom to different levels. But maybe you could have an AI pathologist at least giving a preliminary diagnosis to be reviewed. Someone's doing, for instance, an emergency surgery at 3 a.m. because there's cord compression from a tumor. You want to get a wet read on that cold section pathology, and it's kind of hard to make pathologists be there 24/7, but if it could be done preliminarily by AI, if it's accurate 95% of the time, that would be extraordinarily useful. Another thing would be things like medical research. One of my colleagues, Professor Gavin Giovannoni in the United Kingdom, had a question which is about the association between HIV and multiple sclerosis. It turns out that people with multiple sclerosis have a lower rate of having HIV than the general population. And this is even accounting for the fact that most people with HIV are men and most people with multiple sclerosis are women, and accounting for the age demographics and everything. And he had this hypothesis that maybe it's the medications, the antiretroviral drugs, which treat HIV, also unintentionally treat human endogenous retrovirus W, which has been associated with multiple sclerosis. Very interesting hypothesis. And he was reaching out to me because, my organization, we have some data that could potentially be useful. Now, this study was never actually done by us because of essentially the time and effort and funding, and we just didn't have the manpower or the time or the dedication to do it. But imagine how easy that study would be if you had AI that had access to your medical records. Perhaps it could be done in seconds. Now, there are all kinds of barriers to doing research, like ethics, looking at people's personal data. And, imagine if you had AI that would never generate any private health information, never violate any kind of ethical standards, just give you the raw data without invading anyone's privacy. That would be better than a human researcher like me manually looking for the chart, where I could accidentally make a mistake and release PHI or do something else, or even make a simple typographical error, changing the data, that kind of thing. So imagine being able to get an answer to a question like that in seconds. Or what if AI had access to all kinds of data? You could look for correlations between heart attacks and what people buy at the supermarket. It would truly be extraordinary. So to give my prediction, I would say that AI will be used more and more to help doctors. I think we're sort of in the early stage of doctors working with AI to improve their abilities, improve efficiency, improve quality of care, lower costs. We're very early on in that stage of the development of artificial intelligence and the use of medicine. And I think we'll be in that stage throughout my career, perhaps more towards the intermediate phase. I'm not saying it's theoretically impossible for AI to replace all doctors. Of course, if technology is good enough, that could happen, but my guess is I'll be long retired. I'd be interested to know your prediction. Do you think that AI can replace doctors? Do you think it can do it within 2 years? And if not, what aspects of medicine could be replaced by AI? And what do you think I'm missing here? And let me know if you have suggestions for future videos.